South India population with special reference to mucopolysaccharidosis. Throughout the course of her academic career, she has delivered more than 30 posters and oral presentations in national and international conferences, seminars, and symposia, including other countries like UK and Turkey. She has contributed in authorizing chapters in 10 books, published 21 papers in peer reviewed national and international journals. She has invited as a judge for research meet and served as a resource person for invited talks and refresher courses. Additionally, Madam has received three Mumbai University research grants and UGC minor grant, along with three industry grants. Dr. Sundara Rajan Madam is recognized by Mumbai University for postgraduate teaching since 2006 and is a recognized guide for MSc by research since 2013 and for the PhD in life sciences from 2017. She has guided more than 30 students for MSc projects and currently has two PhD under her guidance are working. She has played internal role in various academic committees, including being a member of the Board of Studies in Life Sciences at Mumbai University and the Vice Chancellor nominee for the Board of Studies in the Department of Biotechnology at Jahind College and the Department of Life Sciences at Sophia College. Beyond her academic pursuit, she served as the director of Chaos Research Laboratory, St. Xavier's College, Mumbai, since 2011 and as the member secretary of the Institutional Biosafety Committee appointed by the DPT, Government of India since 2013. She is also engaged as a nodal officer for Nodal Center Virtual Labs at IIT Bombay and holds the position of associate editor at the Journal of Phyto Nanotechnology and Pharmaceutical Sciences. She is also a life member to professional bodies such as the Indian Society of Cell Biology, Indian Women Scientists Association, and the Indian Society of Immunology. Uh, she has been teaching the cancer biology for UG and PG students for last past many years. So, with this, madam's biodata is very huge. Uh, today, madam is with us. So, not I'm not going to waste more time. I request madam to deliver the lecture. Over to Prashant sir.
Uh, Thank you, Anil sir. Now, uh, for the smooth function of our program, we need to adhere to some rules and regulations. And may I now request to our program's convener, Professor Sharad Sankhe, to inform about the rules and regulations that need to be followed for smooth function of the program. Over to you, Sankhe sir.
Thank you, Prashant sir. So our course title is Research and Publication Ethics, RPE, which is awareness about the publications of ethics and publication of misconducts and publication ethics. This course is two credit course, that is 30 hours course. As per Mumbai University, this course is conducted by RUSA, so it is totally free. But you have to follow the rules and regulations of our Patkar College. The first is that everybody should note that 75% attendance is compulsory to get the certificate, which carries 30 marks. Then you have to submit 7 assignments, which carries 70 marks, and 100 marks MCQ test will be there. So total 200 marks will be there for this course. This is a totally free course. So everybody should take advantages of it. First, no personal call or queries will be entertained. No grading shown on the certificate. No marks will be given on the certificate. These are the conditions of our course. So if you are interested in all these conditions, if you are satisfied, then only join this course. Again, those students who have already done this course should not join for this course, because this is the university course which is already we have seen, and this is the pattern will be there. So there are six modules are there. First is philosophy and ethics. Everything is given on your WhatsApp group. Second is scientific conduct. Third is publication ethics. Fourth is open access publishing. Fifth is publication misconduct. And sixth is database and research metrics. This is the total 30 hours course. Syllabus is already given on the WhatsApp group. Okay, only registered candidates should get the certificate. And out of these three courses, that is your attendance, assignments, and MCQ, all three parts should be completed. And if you get more than 100 marks, then you can get the certificate of 2 credit. Without your marks or grading will be there. Only the certificate as per university pattern. Okay, so nobody should ask about the marks or grade. This is the university pattern. We are following the strictly university pattern. This is the free course. So those students who are already done, same syllabus is there. So no, not to need to do the again and again. So this is the condition. And then nobody should ask the personal calling and asking the queries. You should ask after the lecture. Then the timetable will be given 1 day before the course. Okay, nobody should ask the full timetable. What is the timetable? First day, second day, third day. 1 day before you can know the all the courses, when the next lecture will be there, and everything will be given on the WhatsApp. Okay, during working days, our course timing is 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. Everybody should note it. On holidays, it will be varies, but other days 6 to 9. If you have the time in that slot, then only join for course. And 75% attendance is compulsory. Thank you.
Thank you.
Over to
Sir, shall I
Prashant,
start?
Dr. Priya Sundarajan, madam, may I now request you to start the program? Over to you, madam.
Thank you very much. Good morning, one and all. I'm really grateful to Patkar Vardhe College. You've been very kind. Thank you, Principal Madam and Dr. Sharat Sanke, Vice Principal, as well as Neelima Prabhu Ma'am. Also, Pawar Ma'am, she was the one who initially invited me for this particular talk, and all the management of Patkar Vardhe College. This is the third year I'm giving this particular session on publication ethics. And good morning to all the students. Wish you all the best. So the first and foremost, I'll share the screen. Kindly let me know if you're able to see.
yes, madam.
So students, all of you are involved in research and you are going to start your PhD work. You may be in the middle of your PhD work. So we will briefly go through this journey of research as well as some aspects related to ethics. Like Principal Madam said, it is very good to do high impact research. At the same time, we should also have to keep the ethics of research in mind. So keeping that in mind only, UGC has, as well as Mumbai University has given this 2 credit course on publication ethics, which is a mandatory as a pre-registration process for PhD students. Because before you start research, you should be completely aware of the ethics that are involved in research. So let's see initially what is scientific research, what is research, and every research, whether it is in the field of humanities, commerce, or in the field of science, involves some scientific method. So what is research? The systematic, rigorous investigation of a situation or a problem in order to generate new knowledge. So the moment we say research, it is something new that we are looking at. The problem that we are going to search is something which has not been done before. So that's the main idea of when we are saying research, or sometimes it is also validating the existing knowledge in a new way. So that is what is called as research, and it is the scientific method of pursuing this research in a systematic process. So whenever a research is to be conducted, it has to be done in a very systematic way for collecting, analyzing the data in order to increase the understanding of the particular problem which we are concerned with and we are interested in finding a solution to. So let's see some basic ideas about research. What is research? How do you find out the research problem? So this cartoon will tell how something about basic research. So in the cartoon, you can make out that this person is just by rubbing this together a few sticks, they started the fire. So he said, I was doing research. What is next? So when you identified your problem, the next main aspect will be to plan. How to go about doing your research to plan the research process. Most of you may be in this particular situation, thinking about whether to start. Can I really do? Am I taking the right path? Are my subjects appropriate if you're thinking about survey-based research? And do I have any other option? Am I in the right path? Am I really cut out for research? These are the various ideas and thoughts which comes to students when they are about to start research, or sometimes even in midway when they are doing research. Many a times it happens that when students don't get proper results, they think that, oh no, this is not, I shouldn't have done it. Maybe I should leave and go away. But let's see, that's not the solution. If you do it in a systematic way, definitely there is light at the end of the tunnel and all of you will get good results. Thinking about, if you see the world around us, it's always changing. We never expected in 2020 in January or February that we are going to go in a lockdown in March. So world is continuously changing. With respect to population growth, there is climate change, there's a lot of new diseases, and so many aspects which is continuously changing. And hence, newer and newer topics, newer and newer research ideas, newer and newer research questions come into the picture. So there is a lot of scope for doing research in all realms of subjects and knowledge. What should you consider before you want to start research? Think about whether I really want to be committed, because it's going to be, especially if you're doing a PhD, it will be at least 3 to 4 years of my life that I'm going to dedicate to research. Am I motivated enough for such a long process? Is my family and friends supportive of my process in doing the research? And again, another very important aspect is it takes a long time, 3 to 4 years, and there may be resources which are required. So do I have the financial support? Do my institute has the financial support? Does my institute have the required facilities that are required to do the research for this long time? Overall, when you want to summarize the journey of research, like I said, the first and foremost is look out for a problem and ask a question which there is no answer for, or you want a new answer is required. So this is the main aspect, the beginning of research. Without a legitimate or a good problem, the research has no value. Just by validating or just by doing what other people have done will not be called as research. That is what we do in our regular experiments. I'm a science person. I guess there are many science students, but they also may be students from other faculty in the audience. So I apologize for taking science as an example many a times, but what I say is relevant for all faculties, whether it is humanities or commerce or science or any other faculty. Asking a question is most important because we want to find something new. Next will be you make a hypothesis, make an observation, conduct the experiment, draw your conclusions, and finally report your results. Your results can be reported in various ways. It can be compiled in different ways. It can be in the form of a thesis. It should also be in the form of a research paper. So there are various ways of representing the report. So this will be overall in summarizing the journey of research which you are going to take up in the next few years. So let's explore what are the types of research to generate the idea and overall the how to go about publishing and the ethics that are involved. Since the main focus of this particular entire 2 credit course, the 30 hours course, is to focus on ethics of research. So before that, we should always know a little bit about what are the types of research. So one important type of research is what is called as quantitative research. So the students, when you have taken up a particular topic, you can very well correlate with whether your research is a quantitative research or a qualitative research. The quantitative research, if you see, your data is always numerical. There is some lot of numbers which you get as an output, and the results are always analyzed using various mathematical and statistical methods. And this is very, very important for a very good and legitimate research. Finally, you're turning, if you're especially, even if you're doing a survey-based research, you're going to convert the opinions that you get into a numerical format. So overall, when you say quantitative research will involve some numerical values that you will get based on the research methods that you are following. The other type of research is what is called as qualitative research, wherein you does not actually involve numbers or numerical data. It involves a lot of words, pictures, a lot of observations, record keeping, case studies. Okay? So that will be the qualitative research. Overall, what's the main difference? So qualitative data, which consists of descriptive statements, whereas in a quantitative data, there will always be some ways of measurement and you get a numerical output based on it. So there are a lot of numbers that you are able to deal with and you get a data consisting of numbers. Here, it's more, in the case of qualitative, it's more text-based and hence statistical analysis is harder. For example, using interviews, getting some information which has already been published in the form of written documents and so on will come under qualitative data. For example, in the faculty of English, maybe in the faculty of sociology, a lot of data is this type where you are reading and analyzing what somebody has already published or somebody's life, the work of somebody's life. For example, Rabindranath Tagore's publication, Rabindranath Tagore's life and contribution. So something like that kind of a research will be a qualitative research where a lot of reading is being done of the information that has already been published and you're collecting, or some data which you're collecting based on written documents. Quantitative data, like I mentioned, when you're performing your experiment, when you're doing your methodology, when you're doing your research, you get a lot of numbers. And in this case, statistical analysis is easier and it is also a must that a statistical analysis is performed on the data that you have observed to validate the correctness of the data and your interpretation. So here, most of the scientific experiments come under this particular field of quantitative data. Also surveys observation, interviews, and you're converting the interviews into numbers, and so on will be classified as quantitative data. Students, if anybody has questions, you can always ask. So I'm always open to asking questions. Types of research. First and foremost, we will have to focus on what are your objectives. Is it a descriptive or an explanatory, or is it a correlation kind of a research, or it's an exploratory research? A lot of scientific research is exploratory, and many of the humanities-based research are descriptive, and sometimes many of the commerce-based research are explanatory and correlation-based. Okay. Types of research projects. It's also based on your applications. What are you intend to apply? Is it a pure, are you finding out something which an answer to which is not known, some phenomenon? It will become a pure research. If you want to apply, it will become an applied research. Just to give a very simple example, all of us know about the COVID scenario. If we want to know how the COVID virus spreads and how the infection occurs, because it was not very clearly known in the beginning. So such a process will be pure research. When we want to find out how can we control the COVID virus, whether can we develop vaccine, and the process of developing vaccine itself is a research problem. And when the vaccine is developed, you're using the vaccine to control the spread of the virus. So you're applying the research that you have done for a purpose. So that is an example of applied research. When you're looking at inquiry-based, which I've already discussed, it could all be the output that you get can be qualitative or quantitative. So overall, these are the types of research projects that can be undertaken by students. And I'm sure everybody can connect to this, whether in whichever field that you are, whether you are in humanities, whether you're in science, whether you're in commerce or management, and so on. Overall research process. Okay, so this is in a nutshell. This particular slide gives the overall process of undergoing a research, starting from choosing a research topic, you're identifying the main statement problem of your research, which is leading to the question that you're going to answer. So this research question that you're going to answer is the one that you're going to explore for your research for the next 3 to 4 years. So hence, to answer this question, you are going to see, has such a work or similar work already been done? Or is there something of a literature that's available? Somebody else has done research in this area, and is there any published work, which is called as literature review? So this will help in understanding and identifying what are called as research gaps. That means something which has not been published, something which has not been identified. And these research gaps are going to be very important aspect to conclude what is called as the hypothesis for research. And based on the hypothesis, you're going to identify the method with which you're going to pursue your research, the method by which you're going to collect your data. Are you going to go to archives, different archives, and collect information? Are you actually planning to do an experiment? Are you going to do a survey to get the data, market survey, market product survey, or some developing a vaccine, or finding out contribution by some great scientist, or contribution by a great literature person, and so on. So the methodology will vary from field to field, depending upon the hypothesis, and you're going to collect your actual data. So this process takes about 2 years when you're doing your research, minimum 2 years. Then comes your data analysis. So depending upon whether it's a qualitative data that you have or a quantitative data that you have, accordingly, if it's a quantitative data, automatically we use statistical tools to validate and to interpret the data. And qualitative data will have its own way of interpretation and analysis. This data can also lead to submitting this project for grant because you may need funding. So some initial data that you have got and you want to submit, these are especially for the PIs where they submit the project proposal for grant. And if they are students, they will submit, they will make a report, you will make a thesis, you will have papers which are published based on the work that you have carried. Overall, that's the research process. Now let's come to the main important topic. So now that we have got a little background on research and how to go about planning for a research topic and research idea, let's see the focus of today's. Gurus, is there any question?
Yes, ma'am. I just wanted to ask. Very good morning, first of all, ma'am.
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am. So, once our collection of data is done, I just wanted to know that in the collection we are having the data as quantitative also and qualitative also.
Okay.
So, majorly, how are we gonna decide? Like, I am gonna have a statistic data as well as
Yeah.
also as well as the collection data of qualitative wise. So,
Yes.
how would I decide whether which category is gonna go?
Then it will be a combination of qualitative and quantitative research that you are undergoing. That there's no hard and
Okay.
fast rule that any research should be only qualitative or only quantitative. These are only just the ideas that has been put forward by us. One
Okay, ma'am.
research which you are undergoing for about 3 to 4 years may involve partially a qualitative aspect because you already want to find out and analyze and already published results and also collect some information based on that. And you may be performing some experiment or getting a survey where you will get so many numbers of respondents and you will convert this data into a quantitative data. So you will have a combination of both and accordingly will be your final interpretation of the result, keeping in view the outcome that you have got based on both type of data that you have collected.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you. Thank you for clearing my doubt. Thank you so much.
Yeah. So let's go to the focus of today's the entire course, which is ethics. So we'll start off with plagiarism and tips to avoid plagiarism because many a times all the research will always involve writing in some way or the other. Whether you're writing your data, you're collecting the data, you're publishing your work, you're writing your thesis, there is always some written material that we are preparing, that the students are preparing. And this is one very important aspect which needs to be kept in mind. So let's see what is plagiarism and how to avoid plagiarism. So first of all, let's identify what actually is plagiarism. The act of presenting another work, another person's work or ideas as your own is plagiarism. So this, I think during the COVID time, most of the students have done a lot of assignments and a lot of questions which are being answered. They just Googled it, copy pasted, and then submitted it as their own work. And similar submissions are being done, sometimes even for research papers and thesis. So according to the World Association of Medical Editors, which are called as WAME, they define plagiarism as the use of others' published as well as unpublished ideas. So here, even if you are copying somebody else's idea or words or intellectual property without attribution. Without attribution means without giving credit or without permission. and presenting them as new and original rather than which is being derived from any existing source is defined as plagiarism. Overall, what is the meaning of plagiarize? To steal and pass off, this could be ideas or words of another person's as one's own. To use another person's production like a publication without giving credits for the source. This could be an image, this could be a table, this could be some data, could be in any form. It could be just a written text. There could be various ways of using another person's product. Many times what students do is they take an image from a paper. It's a study or the result, maybe a gel picture or some image that has been already published. And in their assignments, they use that particular image directly. And that without giving credit. That's the most important, without giving credit. Sometimes tables are directly being taken from some other source and incorporating. For example, nutritional status. What is the nutrients which are present in some particular food sources, and so on. Directly a table is taken and incorporated as though you are writing it. So all these without giving credit or for the source. It could be to the author who have written this, or it could be, for example, a WHO source or the Indian Medical Association source. Similarly, such or Indian management source, Indian financial services. Similarly, so students directly take some of these data and incorporate in their work without giving any credit. So this is otherwise also called as committing literary theft, to be very precise. And this is presented as new original idea, which is, or a product which is derived from existing. So all these, when students do all these, will be what is called as plagiarism. Whether you take an image, whether you take a picture, whether you take a table, whether you take a text without giving credit, will be plagiarism. Okay, so just a cartoon on this. I think everybody can connect because we copy a lot from internet. And this students all the time do. What information is given is correct. The facts given are correct, but it is copied. If you present it as your own, it is called as plagiarism. So even unintentional or accidental plagiarism is still considered as plagiarism. Often students who have very poor writing ability do not know how to cite, who do not know how to give the references, are all mostly engaged in plagiarism. So you may not have an idea. According to you, you think that you have not copied. But since you do not know how to refer, how to give citation, how to give credit, so that will also be considered as plagiarism because it's actually unintentional by the student, but will also be considered as plagiarism. Even many scholars of high repute who have experience of writing papers also do mistakes by incorporating the ideas which are given by somebody else without acknowledging them, without acknowledging the original source of the writing. In history, in humanities, in English, in all these fields, Hindi, all these fields where you are referring to some other person's work and then you are giving the text or giving the original source without giving credit will always be plagiarism. Whether unintentional or accident, such cases cannot avoid be labeled as plagiarism. So there is no way out. You cannot say that I gave the correct facts, then it has to be considered. But if it is copied directly from somewhere else, it will be considered as plagiarism. And currently, UGC and the government and the universities are very strict. There are very strict norms internationally as well as nationally for such offenses. There is a very similar term, which is called as copyright infringement. So plagiarizing another person's work can be considered as also considered as act of copyright infringement. So even when the text that is plagiarized is not very long, even if it includes very short regions, is called as copyright. Sometimes even stealing of ideas, that means taking ideas, is copyright infringement. And serious consequences follow the copyright infringement. In most cases, you have to pay to the holder, that means the original author. Sometimes even financial benefits are for the original author, and in some cases there can also be jail sentences which are imposed. So just to understand plagiarism and copyright violations. If the students have done IPR, I think many of you will also have the IPR. You would have studied about this copyright, which comes under intellectual property right. So let's see the difference between plagiarism and copyright violation. Many a times it's used one with the other, but there's a thin borderline difference between plagiarism and copyright violation. The nature of intellectual, in the case, nature of offenses, in this case, it is intellectual dishonesty. If it is copyright violation, it's a legal offense. Meaning, if the original author identifies that somebody else has taken, supposing I have taken directly the work of somebody published, somebody of high repute, their own table, their images, their text, and published it without giving credit, appearing as though it's my own, the author can take legal offense, legal action through the courts against me. That's the meaning of copyright violation. Who enforces it? In the case of plagiarism, it is intellectual peers, Senate and professional society. That means we can have the university, we can have the college, you can have the university, you can have the institution, you have the UGC, which will enforce. In this case, copyright violation is always through legal and it is through the courts. How to avoid it? Cite the original authors. Always give credit, whether it's an image, whether it's a table, whether it's an idea that has been already published, whether it's a text that you have taken from another place. Always give credit. And with respect to copyright violation, you will have to get authorization from the owner to publish your work. Violation, very stringent, and here it can also be lead to legal action. You may also have to pay some financial, some money or financial disputes can happen, and you may have to pay the author. And this kind of copyright violation is always settled through the courts. So that's with respect to violation. And here it can be very stringent. I'll come to later. Then the students can also be debarred from carrying out the research. Sometimes it's not even students, it's also the guides who are guiding the students. So that's hence it is very important to identify the research ethics, the plagiarism ethics that are associated with representing your work in the form of a written material, whether it's for publication, whether it is for thesis, whether it is for a report or any other purpose. Okay, so just a cartoon on this. Many of if there are faculty in the audience, and if you're written papers as well as chapters in books, there is very stringent norms by the publishers. If you're providing such images or source from some other source, you will have to show proof of permission by the original author that you can use the given image or table in the particular publication or chapter of yours. And all publishers do ask for this kind of a proof. Without that, they don't allow any image or table to be incorporated in your writer. Why to be concerned? Are we to be concerned? Yes, we have to think about, because it could be what intentionally or unintentionally, it could lead to what is called as intellectual property threat. So here you have your copyright violation. It is a completely unethical practice, and ultimately it leads to what is called as plagiarism, recycling of words. And let's see some examples of plagiarism. And when you want to overcome this, many a times what is being done to avoid plagiarism. But this is not the correct practice. Later on, we will see what is the correct way of representing your work. So effects of plagiarism can be what is called as fabrication and falsification, to distort the truth and deliver inaccurate information to the researchers. Accordingly, other researchers may be greatly wronged, and advancement of the development of the science may also be hindered. You may give a false data. Plagiarism does not distort the data, but instead it overstates the researcher's accomplishment by using the work that has been stolen from others. And this is called as unjustified authorship. And also it misinterprets the work of the researcher. So let's see as an example of what is called as fabrication of data. When you say fabrication, it's mainly an act of inventing, manipulating. This is what is called as manipulating the data. What actually it is different from what has been found. A very simple example. Okay, so this is the original data. How many times it has been repeated? 1 hour, there is no measurement. 3 hour, there is no measurement. 5 hour measurement, there is some output that has been. But the student felt that if such a data is being used for publication or in the thesis, somebody who's examining will always ask why you didn't get any measurement. When you have got in 5 hours, you should have got something at least in 1 hour incubation and 3 hours incubation. Something you should have got. Or you should have repeated it many more times, because this is only 2 repetitions. So what the student does is just put the final data, this is correct, but put some values to show that maybe there's a progress from 1 hour, 3 hour, and 5 hours. Okay, and this looks a very nice data when it is actually being published. So in 1 hour, I've got this much, 3 hours, it's slightly increased, and 5 hours, that's my final observations. So when actually it's published, it looks as though it's a very nice, clean data, and we got a very good results for the work that has been done. But this is actually the original data. So such interpretation or such misinterpretation of your data, where you have what is called as manipulation, is called as fabrication of data. So is this clear to everybody? Can I have yes in the chat if it is clear to everybody what is fabrication of data? Because many a time students do this. Okay, just put some value in between and then say yes. Okay, so this is my data and that's my final data and it looks fine. I think who's going to find out? Nobody is going to find out. Okay, is that clear? Can I have a yes in the chat box?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. Now let's go to what is other examples of fabrication of data. Not measuring the control group and just assigning an arbitrary number to the control group after experiment, entering very similar numbers for statistical significance. So if you actually, for statistical significance, you need about 100, whether it's survey or whether it's some interview that you're taking, or you're collecting a patient sample, or you're going and asking many door to door. minimum number is 100. That's generally the norm. But when you have when you carried out a survey, you sent out the survey forms, you got like 25 responses, maybe 50 responses. And then I don't have enough time. I just have to complete my work and I have to submit it. The original that I require is at least 100, but I have got only 45 numbers in my survey or in my interview. So what do? I just manipulate some data. Similar data I keep writing more and more and show that there are 100 numbers or maybe a little more than that. So for statistical significance, my data looks fine, but actually my original data is only 45 numbers. But what I am going to represent is 101, just to show that I have got statistically significant numbers. That's fabrication of data. Sometimes you can use data or image from other past researchers of their own, presenting as though it's newly discovered data. For example, there's those who are from biology will understand this. This is what we call as gel or protein gel, which has been run. Different protein samples. And what the student does is they just rotate, interchange the images, and it appears as though it's a new data that they have got and present it as their own. So this is image falsification. So if you see many a times where there are images which is there in my slide, you'll always see a reference that has been given. That is following publication ethics. Okay. Falsification of data. Falsification of data is manipulating the research materials, equipment, or procedures, sometimes changing or omitting data without reasonable justification. So even omitting the data will give is what is called as falsification of data. Other broadly similar examples: unjustified modifications of the data in your lab notebooks, and reporting fraudulent details of experimental procedures, materials, and figures in research proposal and articles. Dishonest presentation of the study content in an abstract for an academic presentation is the falsification of data. So let's see an example of falsification of data. So here I have got, this is my original data. This is my original data. Okay, so this is my 1 hour reading. This is my 3 hour reading. This is my 5 hour reading. In the previous example, there were no readings. So I just added some readings. In this case, I have got readings for 1 hour, 3 hour, and 5 hours. But then you see, anybody will ask, this values in the 3 hours are much less. The 1 hour and the 5 hour values are, they are okay, but this in between value, how can there be a dip? It has to be a slow increase from 1 to 3 to 5 hours. Doesn't look nice. So what do? I change these values. 2, from 3 and 2, I make it to 10 and 11. So now it's very nice. Sometimes what is being done is this is completely omitted and only a 1 hour and a 5 hour data is shown. So when I omit my data, I'm showing a false data. So it looks nice between 1 hour and 5 hours. So the student think, why do I show? I don't need to show this 3 hours. Or I change the values and I show it as a data which has been looking nice, falsification. So this is a typical example of falsification of data. So you give false values, manipulate. This is again another type of manipulation which the students do, and this is called as falsification of data. Very commonly done, especially during practical sessions. Students do this a lot, both fabrication as well as falsification of data. So let's now that we have understood what is plagiarism and what is manipulation, falsification, and fabrication of data, we'll see the types of plagiarism. So when you're going to types of plagiarism, there are various types. One is word for word plagiarism. The other is paraphrasing plagiarism. Then you have unconscious plagiarism, secondary source, source not cited, all source cited but still plagiarized. So these are various types of plagiarism. Okay, a little more. There are many, many more if you look at types of plagiarism, but the main ones are these. What could be the yes, Gauri? Gauri Salunke, you want to ask a question? Okay, what are the reasons for plagiarism? Why do students undertake this malpractice of plagiarism? One very important aspect could be not being trained properly, not being made aware, lack of skills, being very careless, especially in the initial stages. More importantly, many students are not having the knowledge of how to cite, how to give credit. They do not have knowledge of, they're not even aware that if we are taking an image or a table or a text, I will have to give credit. Many a time, sometimes currently, it's also publish or perish. Because in many universities, especially with the PIs, in many universities, in many institutions, I have my job only if I publish. Otherwise, especially in foreign universities, if my publications in very high repute journals are not there, then I may even lose my job. So that is publish or perish. I won't get promotions. In students, this is very common, which is insufficient understanding of the concepts of plagiarism and the consequences of it. Students are not aware that this is a poor malpractice. So it should not be done. And what could be the consequences of it? Students are not aware of it. A lot of pressure from the surrounding people, a lot of competition, and poor time management are some of the reasons. Poor time management, your thesis submission date has already been given to you. You know it. But initially, not thought about it, just whiled away the time. Assignment submissions also, students do the same. The teacher give enough time, keeping in mind that this much is the work that is required for making this assignment. 1 month, 2 month time is given, but the students, they while away the initial time. In the last 2 days, I have to submit maybe a 10-page assignment. How am I going to do it? I do not have that time. Let me just take some from here, some from there, put it all together and give it as an assignment. Poor time management. And what could be the other reasons? Need for recognition and advancement, promotions. Okay, in the process of promotion, I will need a lot of papers, I will need a lot of publication, I may need a lot of book chapters, so I will need to continuously publish. Conflicts of interest and promotion and tenure pressures, which I've already mentioned, competition and ego, poor mentoring, and easy accessibility to many texts online, which is currently the scenario. Every student every every individual has, who in the academic field has very easy accessibility to various texts. You just Google, you will get a lot of information. There are so many open access papers, open access resources that are available. Just Google, you get the papers. Just copy paste from it, and my work is done. Currently, you also have a lot of AI tools, ChatGPT. Just put in some of the topics, where ChatGPT gives the entire write up. Just copy paste it, my work is done. Poor time management and easy accessibility to many texts online. Some of the reasons for carrying out plagiarism. So let's see a little bit more about each of these, which is direct plagiarism, also known as word for word plagiarism, otherwise also known as clone plagiarism. So this direct plagiarism involves taking verbatim the entire piece of work by somebody else and claiming it as though it is your own original work. This could be text, this could be images, this could be tables, this could be data. Hired plagiarism, where you pay somebody else to write an essay or research paper for you. And this also includes buying essays from internet sites, using the ChatGPT, easy writing resources. So that is hired plagiarism. Borrowed plagiarism is borrow essays from friends. So similar topics have been given to students over the years. So I asked my senior, what was your topic? My topic is very similar. Give me the essay that you submitted last year. I'll just, who is going to find out? The teacher has seen this, so many different assignments, will not make out between last year and this year that it is the same essay. So this happens many a times with students, with teachers who give very similar topics year after year as assignment for the students. So you just take the previous year's students' assignment or thesis or work or whatever and just submit it. So that is borrowed plagiarism. Currently, UGC has given out norms for self-plagiarism. That means you may be thinking, I have published, but I can use my own work. What's the harm? But self-plagiarism is also an offense. That means using verbatim your own text, which has already been published, is also an offense. And many times what students, instructors or faculty do is that you keep citing your own work to get more citation. Self-citation, so it's very clear. Now you have tools which can detect the self-citations. It does not add any numbers to individual citation or H index. And this is the which has been given out by the notice which has been given out by UGC, 20th April 2020. So if you see, it's a very kind of a recent notification on self-plagiarism, where author researchers copy their own work, copy their own text, recycle their own material, publish the same work in 2 or 3 different journals. This is again a offense. Mosaic plagiarism, also called as patchwork plagiarism, where some part of the work is your own and some part of the work is copy paste. Okay, so this is mosaic plagiarism, and you replace certain words or sections with paraphrased work in attempt to make it unique, but without giving credit. So giving credit, even if you paraphrase, the idea is somebody else. It has already been mentioned somewhere else. You will have to give credit. Collaboration plagiarism. This type of plagiarism involves collaborating on group projects, but acting as though it has been done on your own alone. So it could be, this happens many a times with group projects, where you have a group of students who get together and they do some particular research topic, they do a project, and each one write their own essay. But sometimes it can happen that one student takes the written work by another group member and presents it as it is their own. That is collaboration plagiarism. Aggregated plagiarism is an essay or paper, doesn't have to be word for word copy from another work to be plagiarism. If your paper is based on another paper using the same idea and same sources, it can be aggregated plagiarism. Secondary source plagiarism. If your paper mentions the primary source and cites them properly, but then they use a secondary source without, that means a source which is based on a primary source, there's already been a publication, and the secondary source is being used without citing, will be secondary source of plagiarism. Accidental plagiarism is possibility to accidentally plagiarize another work. If you're doing a lot of research paper, you may come across ideas and forget where you saw them. So you are referring to many resources. So in the process, like I referred to about 40, 50 papers. And in the process, I forgot where I took information idea from which paper. So then I forget to give the credit and just write it. Give credit to only a few that I have selected. So this is called as accidental plagiarism. And sometimes students, like, they've taken some idea, they forget to give the citation. Accidental plagiarism. So these are the types of plagiarism. Yes, Swapna?
Ma'am, my question is how to avoid this accidental plagiarism.
Yeah, so we are now coming to how to avoid plagiarism. So let's see what are the steps that we need to take to avoid plagiarism, which I'm going to talk about. Hopefully your question will be clear. If not, we can again take it up later. Okay. So how to avoid plagiarism? So now that we saw what are the various types of plagiarism, I'm sure each one of you can connect to the various types of plagiarism which was mentioned. Yes, Swapna? Now let us see.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, so we'll see, and then in case you have more queries, we can answer it later. So now let's see how to avoid the plagiarism. First and foremost, the most important is to give credit where it is due. What is that? What are the aspects which needs to be given credit? It could be words, could be text, it could be ideas, books, newspaper, songs, TV programs, movie, web page, computer program, letter, advertisement, or any medium. The information that you gain through interviewing or conversing with another person face to face, over phone, or in writing. All these needs to be given credit. When you copy exact words or a unique phrase, when you reprint any diagrams, illustrations, tables, pictures, any visual material, when you reuse or repost any electronically available media like images, audio, or any other media images or media sources, you will have to give credit. There have been various controversies with very famous personalities in India itself, where either self-plagiarism or these are scientists of high repute. So if you look through the internet for these names, you will get what is the plagiarism aspects that is associated with these. Some of them are self-plagiarism. It will come under any one of the types or a combination of the types of plagiarism that we have mentioned before. This is the famous the Mashilkar case. Professor Mashilkar, very, very well-known personality in India. He had to resign from the patent panel for the plagiarism charge. It was confirmed that he had taken some aspect of report and conclusion verbatim from a November 2005 paper that was authorized by another doctoral student, and he's an associate of Oxford Intellectual Property Research. And then he had given this person's report outcomes as is his own, Professor Mashilkar. And it was identified, and later on he was had to resign. And of course, there were court formalities which were taken, and ultimately he had. He said he said, "I'm very sorry, I didn't realize accidental plagiarism." And then finally he was given okay by the Indian government. There are various other such cases in other countries also. You have the German defense minister. He was once the German defense minister, and who had to resign for facing accusations of plagiarism. He was actually a sports person, and part of his doctoral thesis was found to be completely plagiarized, and he had to resign from the post. So there are various countries which are plagued. It's not that it's only students, like students in undergraduate and postgraduate. There are various famous personalities also who are involved in plagiarism. And various countries, you will find examples of such cases in every country. This is a gazette by Government of India, which has come out quite recently, which is stating the norms for plagiarism, and that's what UGC will also have to follow, and all universities will also have to follow. So what is the outcome of this gazette? What is the essence of this gazette? Is promotion of academic integrity and prevention of plagiarism in higher educational institutions. So this entire gazette is about this. So here, similarity checks for exclusion of plagiarism shall exclude the following. So when you have tools which are used for plagiarism, in that case, you have what is called as similarity checks. So you have various softwares which are currently that are available, which are used for checking for plagiarism. The question as to how to avoid plagiarism will be, whenever you're using words or ideas, you give credit to the original source. If you are giving a quote, what a person has said, represent it within quotes. If you're taking information or text from some other source, you may paraphrase it, because by paraphrasing, it will be the plagiarism software tools may not pick it up as plagiarized, but since the idea is taken from some other source, which is somebody else, you give credit by giving the citation and in the bracket the name of the person. If you have taken an image, below the image write the source of the image. If you have taken a table, below the table write the source of the table. So those are some of the ways by which you can overcome plagiarism. So when, yes, I mean,
Good morning, ma'am. I have one question.
yeah,
I'm doing my research work in analytical chemistry.
okay.
There are some phrases like HPLC and solvent name and column name are similar, and that time it found in plagiarism. What could we do in this case?
It is very internationally used abbreviations, which has been picked up by the software. Sometimes when you do the similarity checks, which are being done, many of the software will exclude some of the following. For example, if it is references and bibliography, if it is some common generic terms, laws and standard symbols and standard equations, they are excluded from plagiarism from the similarity checks. So when you are, I agree. Even when I am from biotechnology, so when we represent many terms like HPLC or HPTLC, the work was carried out using HPLC machine, and those pick up, but that is okay. This will be coming under the standard symbols and standard equations and standard abbreviations.
Sometimes mobile phrase and buffer solvent names are similar
Yes, yeah,
as a previous
yes.
research.
Yes. So you can try to write it, paraphrase and write, but many terms like this, which are commonly used in the particular field, which is repeated many times, try to avoid repetitions of the word. That is one way to avoid play. For example, you are using the other term HPLC. The following work was carried out by using the HPLC, this model, this make. Okay. Then again and again, don't write based on the HPLC results, it was found that. Based on the results of HPLC, it was found that. So don't keep repeating that HPLC again and again. To refer to the previously mentioned that this work has been carried out using HPLC once. That's more or less enough for others to understand that the following data that you are giving is based on the results that you have done using HPLC. So if you keep repeating the same thing again and again, then definitely it will flare up. Once it flares up, it's okay. Everybody understands that it is the standard symbol or standard equation that is being used. But if you again and again use the same thing, just so that you want to reiterate that it is based on HPLC or NMR or whatever, again and again, then it will definitely show up in when similarity check is being done. So avoid using a similar phrase or a similar term again and again, even though it's a standard equation, unless it's completely that you are not able to avoid. But then again, in every sentence, in every word, in every this thing, you don't use the same word again and again. Then you will be able to. That's one way of avoiding when you do a plagiarism check. So HPLC, playing work results are output of HPLC. Finish that and give your result. That's enough.
Sorry, ma'am. One more question
Yeah.
is there any criteria or something? How many percentage of plagiarism or
I'll
similarity
come
check
to
is
that.
acceptable?
I'll come to
Okay,
that.
thank you.
My next slide is on that only. So the plagiarism, when you're especially, this is the plagiarism when we are talking about here it's not called as plagiarism. It's basically your similarity output. When such some softwares that are used. So you have softwares like Urkun, your Turnitin, which are there, and university pays, your institution pays for such software. There are various unpaid version, free open source softwares which are available, like DupliChecker and so on, are some of the, even Quillbots has its own free open source software, but believe me, they are not good. You may get 0% in them, but actually when you put it through Turnitin, it may show a very high level of similarity. So I know it's easy for students, it's better for students to run through the work that you have done through these open source tools because you do not have access, but they are not good enough to identify the similarity. The paid versions are much better, and the softwares which are used by especially by good publishers like Taylor Francis publishers or Springer publishers, they are of very high quality, and they are able to find out the similarities to a very high level. So if you may say that I have put it through DupliChecker, or I have put it through Quillbots and I got maybe 1% or maybe even 0%, and when you send it for publication, it's found that it's like 25 or 30%. Okay. So I know it's very difficult for students to have access to these tools, but if you have maybe your institution through your faculty, through your guide, you can get the similarity check done before publishing. I always do, because in my college, we buy the Turnitin software every year, which is to be used for students. So whatever my students send out for either for publication or even for abstract for conferences and so on, I always run it through and only then allow them to send it. So as Amin asked the question, what are the percentages that are allowed? Here, when you're talking about percentages, if the softwares look up the expression, what is the output is similarity percentages. It's not mentioned as plagiarism percentages. So the similarity in turn is related to the plagiarism that is being done in the particular document. So according to this gazette, there are 4 levels. Level 0, which is similarity up to 10%. It's very minor similarity. So here will come standard abbreviations, standard equations, some terms which are very commonly used in the particular field, and so on. All this will flare up as similarity. There is no way that you can paraphrase them or you can replace them like HPLC or NMR or any of these terms. There's no replacement for it. So you will have to use these terms. Some equations, you will have to use the particular equations, which is used again and again in that particular field, or for the given type of data, you may have to use statistical t-test, which is being used, or f-test that's being used, ANOVA that's being used. So there's no replacement for these. So all these will be flared up, and then the similarities, which is level 0, is up to 10% is allowed. And here there is no penalty. That means it's okay to have up to 10% similarity. Level 1, because it's impossible to have a 0%, you may be using equations, you may be using abbreviations, you may have to use some quotes, you may have to use some images, you may have to use some phrases, depending upon your background. Accordingly, you will have regions which are flaring up when you're doing your similarity search. So that is level 0 up to 10% without any penalty. Level 1 is similarities above 10 up to 40%. Level 2 is similarities above 40% to 60%. And level 3 is similarities above 60%. What if we get in this area? Let us see. Currently, according to UGC norms, according to the NAC norms, every institution should have what is called as an institutional academic integrity panel, which is supposed to monitor and impose penalty depending upon the severity of plagiarism. And this is must for all if not regular assignments, but definitely PhD theses or any research, what we call as a new output, research outputs from the given institution. The level 0, which we mentioned, which is similarity up to 10%. This is only minor similarities, unavoidable similarity. There is no penalty. It is completely acceptable. Even for publication, when you are sending it to journals of high repute, similarities up to 10%, maybe 11% is completely acceptable, because many phrases, terms, equations and all you may be using, which is used in a given particular field of research, which is unavoidable. You will have to use it because that is the field of study. So there is no penalty associated with it. Level 1, which is similarity above 10 to 40%, such student shall be asked to submit a revised script within a simulated time period, which does not exceed 6 months. This is for theses and so on. But for small projects, it can be within a few weeks' time that you modify and submit, and we will rerun it through the similarity tool to make it 10 or less than 10%. So here, the revision, it is the student or the PI is asked to revise the manuscript, revise the report, revise the thesis, and resubmit it back so that it can be, later on, it can come up to 10%, the level 0 similarity. Level 2 penalties will be similarities above 40 to 60%. Here, the student shall be debarred from submitting a revised script for a period of 1 year. Nobody does it, but this is what is according to the Gazette and according to the government norms. So here, there is not even a revision. For 1 year, you cannot submit your thesis. You are given that means your revision time that is given is 1 year. Similarities above 60%, the registration of such students stands cancelled. That means your PhD registration will be, this is government norms and universities are expected to follow this. That is why even Mumbai University, if some of you have submitted your synopsis or thesis, if you see, they will ask you to submit the similarity report along with your thesis. Even many of the faculty who have done their PhD in the recent times, the similarity report will have to be submitted along with your synopsis, along with your thesis. Based on that, the university is going to take stand. Obviously, if you are having more than 40%, you yourself are going to modify it. And you will have to make sure you bring it 10%, less than 10%, and then submit it. That is why institutions are either being given licensed softwares or they will have to buy the licensed softwares for similarity checks to be done by the research outputs from the given institute. So the above 60%, the registration is cancelled for the given. So, and if the penalty is repeated, such student shall be punished for the plagiarism of one level higher than the previous level, which has been committed by him or her. In case when plagiarism of the highest level is committed, then the punishment for the same will be operated. That means if the highest level, then it's like your registration will get cancelled. So with respect to, this is with respect to what is given here is with respect to your PhD thesis and so on. What is with respect to publications? So with respect to publication, that means you are sending out a research paper. So in this case, level 0, the minority, it is minor similarities, no penalty. Similarities 10 to 40%, they shall be asked to withdraw the manuscript. 40 to 60%, they will be asked to withdraw the manuscript and also be denied a right to 1 annual increment. This is with respect to the PIs. And they shall not be allowed to be a supervisor to any new master's, MPhil, PhD student scholar for a period of 2 years. This is if the similarity work that has been published or given by the student of the faculty is 40 to 60%. And above 60% shall be asked to withdraw the manuscript, shall be denied a right to 2 successive annual increment, and shall not be allowed to be a supervisor to any new Master's, MPhil, PhD for 3 years. So the penalty is really high if the similarity is very high. Even annual increments or promotion can be stopped, and the faculty may not be able to take students for 2 or 3 years. This is for teachers. This one, what I mentioned, is for students. So since we have talked about similarities, let's see which are the softwares which are available. So there are many plagiarism checkers which are available on Google, which are free to use. Like you have Dupli Checker, Quillbots has its own, you have Fiber, which is there. So these are some of there are many, many more which are free to use plagiarism checkers on Google. It is very important to distinguish plagiarism, similarity, and copyright infringement by these checkers. Like I told you, each one of it is slightly different. Copyright is legal because it comes under IPR. So these softwares are not very accurate. Sometimes when a student does, they say, I got 0% similarity. It's impossible to get 0%. It's impossible. That means you have not written anything. Because 100%, if you are using in your particular own field, you may be using some common phrases, some common terms, some abbreviations, some quotes. All these, you have to use it depending upon the area. So some percentage of similarity will come in a given particular manuscript. That's why the 10% is allowed. So if a software is giving 0%, then it's a useless software. So if you want to publish your article in any good journal, which are listed in Scopus, Web of Science, UGC Care list, you can check on your own, but definitely the publisher is going to check, and they have a high-end, they'll definitely have a high-end similarity check software, paid software, very accurately check similarity in the manuscripts that are being submitted. So some of these softwares and website checks to check plagiarism. So you have cross-check, SafeAssign, Turnitin, Dupli Checker, Urkund, plagiarism.com. Some of them are free. Some of them have a free version as well as the paid version, but definitely the paid version like Turnitin and Urkund. Definitely the paid version is better than the free version. But these are some of the softwares which are used for checking similarity. So Dejavu is again a database developed by the Harold Gardner in University of Texas, which identifies highly similar citations in Medline. You also have checkforplagiarism.net. There's a free software as well as the paid software. Similarly, Authenticate, it is developed by iParadigms, California-based companies, compare submitted articles against a database of existing articles. This is the output that is given by Dejavu. The yellow highlights are the aspects of the paper which is similar from other authors. Urkund is another good software, which is a web-based application which conducts server-side plagiarism detection. And this is what University of Mumbai had procured. And a few years back, the teachers would recognize a few years back, Urkund, the university themselves, whatever thesis was submitted, the university, the thesis section themselves used to do the similarity check for the theses which were submitted to university, and the software used for was Urkund. This is a paid service, which handles 300 separate types of submissions and checks. But currently, the university does not no more does on their own. The thesis section doesn't do on their own. They may, I think they have the license is expired, and they ask the students, the faculty, that is the teacher in charge of the student, the guide of the student. You are supposed to do it and submit the uh, plagiarism check software output along with your thesis. Authenticate is another web-based plagiarism detection tool where very many well-known journals and publishers, they use this well-known method and it's a very professional, fast plagiarism checker and easy to use. And it can also be used by institutions and for personal use. Turnitin is become very, very popular and successful web-based tool for detection of the manuscript that have been submitted through it. Many universities, more than 15,000 universities and 30 million students have now approved Turnitin user, which is very user friendly. Even my college has Turnitin and we use it for the assignments as well as the theses and manuscripts which we submit. Can be one of the best plagiarism checker software. The summary of this is all the software which check plagiarism, they don't check for plagiarism, they check only the similarity level and give an output of the similarity level. And this is in turn correlated to the plagiarism. For example, this output which is given, because wherever there is a highlight, all these highlighted areas are verbatim taken from some source. And many of these softwares, for example, Turnitin and all, they don't take the reference part into consideration because references will always flare up. Somewhere or the other is published. So reference region, the bibliography region is never taken. It's always only the written text manuscript region, which is used for the similarity check by the software, and an output is. Overall, how does this work? Indexing and inclusion of contents of journals or books, cross-check data by the publisher. So once you are sending your manuscript, this is especially when you want to publish, your manuscript is received by the publisher and it is checked for similarity. Display of cross-check logo in the publications, and Authenticate offers plagiarism detection, IP protection, and document-to-document comparisons. Respect Authenticate. Okay. So overall, with respect to journals, what do? You have your article that is submitted. First and foremost, it is sent for. There's a lot of background noise.
नजदीक लेकिन तुझे कब जाना है घर?
Sir, can you please mute the participants? Can you please mute your noise? To mute yourself.
मेगा ब्लॉग चालू हो गया होगा 12
Participants, can you please mute?
2 मिनट हो गए, बात कर लेती हूँ आंटी। मेगा ब्लॉग चालू हो गया, 12 बजे गए। 12 बजे होते हैं ना,
Priyanka,
एकदम बंद नहीं करते।
sir, can you ask the student to mute?
इधर जाते होते हैं, उसको अंबरनाथ जाना है ना।
Balirao, sir. Can you ask the student, please ask the student to mute?
तुला चेक करता येतं मोबाईल मध्ये मेगा ब्लॉग? 4 बजे तक ना, ट्रेन मिलेगी ना?
Priyanka,
Kokate, please stop, turn off your sound.
Please mute. Yeah. Thank you. So let's see, when you are submitting your manuscript, especially for publication, what is the process? So you have your article that is submitted, and it is moving ahead before moving ahead for editorial assessment. First and foremost, there is a plagiarism check, similarity check, which is carried out for the article that is submitted. So the moment it is submitted, the first thing that is done, whether it is considered or not, we are talking about good publishers, they will do a similarity check. Once it is within the acceptable limits, which is 10%, then it will be sent for editorial assessment. The editor will then send it for a peer review process. If it is above the norms of similarity, it will directly be rejected. If it is within the similarity percent, then it is sent for peer review. After the peer review process, depending upon the comments of the reviewers, there is a revision which will be asked to be done by the journal to the authors. So once the revision is being done and it is submitted, it is provisionally accepted. Again, a plagiarism check is done, and then it will move in ahead for publication. So that's overall the process which is used by publishers for any journal that is being submitted. Given here is one of the case study which has led to publishing by a researcher in a very high repute journal. In the case of sciences, if you see, it is Nature, which is a very high repute journal. Okay, so we are talking about here a scientist called as Haruko Obakata. So she had published 2 papers. She's from the field of stem cell biologist, a leading stem cell biologist. And she was working in the laboratory for cellular programming in RIKEN, Center for Developmental Biology. So she claimed in 2014 to have developed a radical and remarkably very easy method for regenerating some type of a stem cell. So I'm making it very simple so that everybody can understand. So that was the paper in Nature that she published. Okay, so in response to this, what happened is there are many other biologists from in the similar area in other parts of the world. What they did was they tried to replicate the work which was done by Haruko Obakata, and they found that they failed to get the results that she got. And then all of them were also, like some scientists in the UK, some scientists in the US, they tried to do exactly the same way what this scientist had published. But they failed to get each time, each one of them. And they said it's impossible. Like, I know this thing, we have been doing this particular field so long. So if I exactly replicate what is being given in this paper, I'm not able to get the results. And same was told by other famous scientists in the field in different parts of the world. So then this resulted in an investigation which was launched against RIKEN and against Haruko Obakata. And they found of scientific misconduct on the part of Obakata to replicate these stem cells, which it failed over the world. And what she had done was she had used, just done the work like once, whatever result she got. And some part of the manuscript that was used was what I told of like fabrication and falsification. It falls under the similar category. and she had restructured the work that she had, what she had done, and published it in Nature. It looked wonderful initially to the reviewers, something new, okay, and it was accepted. But later on, when other scientists tried to replicate the work, the experiments failed, and then the author was found guilty of misconduct. After that, the repercussions was Nature retracted the paper. In fact, a journal of very high repute like Nature retracted the journal, and she had to resign from Riken, and then she could not even later on get work in other labs. This was the paper which was then retracted by Nature later when the data was found to be falsified. Okay. So the work that the summary of this particular instance, the case study that I'm giving, is not only that you should not falsify and fabricate the data that you have submitted yourself. Also, what you are giving in the manuscript, what you are publishing, should be reproduced. If somebody else in some other part of the world are reproducing this work, it should be possible. That is why, especially when scientific experiments are being conducted, it has to be done in triplicate and 3 different times, and you will have to get the same results. And if somebody else does the same experiment, they also will have to get the same results, and only then it is called as the valid scientific output. Okay, so that's why it's very important to again and again carry out your experiment, make sure that you get the same results, and only then publish. Doing it just once, that's why you need a statistical, and especially if you're carrying out surveys, just with 10 people or 20 people, a survey numbers is not enough. That's why statistically significant is minimum 100, because only then you get the real picture of the whole idea and whole data. So there are many such instances. So when we are publishing, we should always look out for high impact paper. And many a time students, what they do is, like this is, all of you I'm sure are able to identify. This is Newton, and he identified by falling of an apple the law of gravity. Many just copy this in the sense that here I'm seeing an orange falling and says that orange also follows the law of gravity. So this is not something new. This cannot be called as research. When we already started, and like our principal madam also said, like when it's a research topic, it is the research gaps. It's something new, something not been done, something not been identified, something not published. Just publishing the same view or the same results that has been got by the others in a different way. So here, instead of apple, it's the orange. It's a low impact research and low impact paper. So students, when you're keeping in mind, when you're choosing your research topic, as well as when you're writing your manuscript, make sure what you do is new, novel, original, and in your own words. Overall, some of the ways to avoid plagiarism is you can paraphrase. Even if you paraphrase, if you are taking the idea from some other paper, give credit. You can summarize 3 or 4 research papers you're reading, and you can summarize it in your own words. If you're taking verbatim, somebody said, you can include it as quotations, but there is also some percent that you can use as quotations. It cannot be all the time quote, 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 quote. You can use like 1 or 2 quotes in your write-up. Just because the quotations will not be taken as plagiarism, because you have included it in the course, everything of yours cannot be in quotations. You should use it only to some amount in your write-up. Citations is very important, where you give credit. give the reference. The reference of authors or the source of book, like a WHO or Indian Foreign Service or Indian Financial Service, any of these. There are many such open source documents wherein you can give the source. Then you have what are called as Creative Commons. So in Creative Commons, which is CC, this is like you have scientists and authors and individuals who have put up something on the net, and they have called it as open source. Okay, when you say open source, you don't need to get permission from the author. There's a link for it. You have a whole site also. When you type in Creative Commons, you will get the source or whatever the images and material which are there under it. So Creative Commons, whatever has been taken, like an image or some material from Creative Commons, is open source. You are free to use it. This is true especially for images and designs and things like that which are being used in your manuscript. Otherwise, if you are using verbatim some image or a result or a data, you will have to give permission and from the original author and give the citation, the source from which you have taken the given material. And of course, the other way to avoid plagiarism is you use plagiarism software, identify the level of similarity, and you modify your manuscript by any one of these methods, like paraphrasing or summarizing, and then give citation. So a very small example. So this is a passage from a source. This is what we give for our students as exercise. So this is a passage from a source. So what is given here is you're supposed to write a summary of it. So the student writes the summary, but if you see, majority of the parts of the summary is from the original. Critical care nurses function in a hierarchy of roles. Critical care nurses have a hierarchy of roles. It's the same. So this is called as word-to-word plagiarism. When you say patchwork plagiarism, the student has written majority of the write-up on their own, but many regions are similar, taken verbatim, without changing from the original source. So this is called as patchwork plagiarism. And what is shown here is a legitimate paraphrase where you don't see any highlight. It's not verbatim. It's modified, paraphrased, summarized in the student's own writing. Just to give an example of how a legitimate paraphrase and a summary looks like. And you will have to give, if it's taken from any source, you'll have to give the reference from where you have taken this particular source. So that is legitimate paraphrase. So here, for a region which has been taken from any manuscript without giving the citation, this is the plagiarized version. You paraphrase it and give the citation, that will be a legitimate paraphrase. Okay, so you do have softwares which are used. So text-to-text plagiarism is not proper. You will have to paraphrase them, summarize them, and give a citation, or after which you will be able to, it will be a legitimate citation. So what to cite? What to give credit? Give credit where it's due to avoid plagiarism. What to cite? Journal articles, research papers, reviews that you have taken, from where you have taken the material from. It could be the entire journal. It could be chapters of a book. It could be the entire book. It could be the conference proceedings. It could be some blogs, some podcasts, some videos from some legitimate sites, because you have a lot of government sites, WHO sites, UNICEF site from which you are taking some information. Give such sites, you can give your citation. Okay, so when you give citations, then and paraphrase and give citations, then of course you're going to avoid the what is called as plagiarism. To conclude, you study the international norms for ethical publications and follow them. That means you have to be aware. International, if you're going to publish in international journals, and national, if you're going to publish in national journals. Norms, which are followed by universities and UGC, you should be aware of, so that when you're submitting your report and your thesis, it is under the ethical guidelines and the correct, it's not plagiarized. You can check similarity using professional softwares. So if you have access, if your guide has access, you can use those softwares to check your manuscript, to check your work. If you find more than 40 to 60%, you rework on your literature until the similarity index goes below 10%, and then submit your thesis or your manuscript. And while checking, do not allow your articles to be stored in databases or archives of the plagiarism software, in which case this happens sometimes. There are settings in the plagiarism software. That is, that you have to tick this. Do not store in the database of the plagiarism software. If you do not tick that, and you are putting your manuscript through, for example, Turnitin or Authenticate or Urkun, the next time you have got a 40 to 60% similarity, you are working on your manuscript and you want to submit it the next time. So the next time when you are submitting it, if you have not picked this, do not store in the database, the software will take it that you are submitting a new manuscript, and then it will match yours submitted, which was submitted the second time, against the one which you submitted the first time, and give a similarity check. That means you will get a plagiarism of similarity of your own manuscript that you have submitted in the database. So this you have to be very careful, especially when you're doing manuscripts as well as thesis, so that it doesn't go into the archives of the plagiarism software. Enjoy mind-free and happy publication to be acknowledged and cited respectfully by the society. Okay, there are various references which are available regarding publication ethics in science, in engineering, in humanities. There are various blogs, and UGC, this good academic research practice. This is open source document that is available by the UGC. Anybody can download it, and it gives all the norms carried out by UGC, as well as which is what comes under good academic research practice. So I recommend that students as well as even researchers and faculty can download and use this document as a reference for as to how to follow good academic research practice. Okay, thank you very much. I have finished my lecture. Anybody wants to ask a few questions, I'm open to ask questions.
Hello, the session is open for question and answers, if any.
Are there any questions?
If there are any questions, we request you, if you have any questions, please post those in the chat box. Or you can ask me to unmute so that I can unmute you and you can speak up.
Ma'am, I'm Vipti speaking.
Yes,
I just
yes.
wanted to ask that for plagiarism,
Yeah.
can we use the free tools which are available online?
That's what I told you. You do have a lot of free tools that are available. I know as students, You may not have access to the paid software, but the free softwares or the free tools are not good enough. If you especially want to send it for a good journal for publication, they are not good enough. It is better you use the paid softwares. If
Okay,
you're able
ma'am.
to get access through somebody, it's best to use that. The ones which are free are not good enough.
Okay, ma'am. Thank
So
you.
you may get like a 0 or a 1% for a manuscript that you are running through them. But when you actually run it through maybe a paid Turnitin or a paid Urkund, you may get like a 25%. Okay, so that is what is actually considered. So the free
Okay,
softwares
ma'am.
are not good enough.
Okay, ma'am. So they're not that
Especially,
reliable.
yeah, no,
Correct.
they are not.
Okay.
Especially PhD students, you should not rely on them.
Yes, yes. Okay, okay, ma'am, for sure. Thank you, ma'am.
Vandana,
Vandana, madam, I'm unable to unmute you. See if you can unmute from your end. I think you are unmute now. Please speak up.
Yes, yes, sir. Thank you, sir. Sir, I have one question, ma'am. That
yeah.
course schedule is not shared with us. First thing, I don't know. Maybe I have missed somewhere. And second thing, for the whatever you have shared, ma'am, you will
Yeah.
share. You will share with us.
Yes, I'll give. The course schedule, as Sir said, that they will
Madam.
share with you every day.
Yes,
That
yes.
Sir will give
Okay.
you.
Okay,
Likewise,
okay. No,
Sir
no.
will give you. Yeah.
Okay, just I have to prepare before, means like if there is any plan. So I should know, means when the classes will be there. That's it.
That
Means,
Sir will be able to tell you.
Oh,
Likewise.
Vandana, madam,
It
have you
joined.
joined? Have you
Yes, sir.
joined the WhatsApp group?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And I have joined little late because I was on YouTube. So
Okay, okay, no problem. So you'll be getting all the information on WhatsApp group, or you can directly message me in person so that I will be there to help you out. Will that
okay,
be
sir. So
fine?
oh, yes, sir. Yes, sir. Perfectly fine. So there
Yeah.
is no fixed schedule right now. There is no fixed date or something.
No, we'll be sharing that because resource persons availability, even resource persons are busy, so we are making them available and will immediately post them. Today I will post that up, at or before 5 p.m. on our WhatsApp group. Hello.
Okay, sir. Oh,
Ah,
okay, sir. Thank you so much.
okay.
Appreciate, because
So now
I have to plan.
because this program will run for 15 days. So
Mm-hmm.
even resource persons are finding their availability difficult. Once they give their confirmation, immediately we'll post that. We will have this a resource person on this topic. The resource person will be speaking on. Okay, on a WhatsApp group. Despite
Okay,
of
sir.
that,
Thank
if you have any other problem, you can directly
you.
post that on a group.
Okay, sir. What about grading? Means what is the grading system?
You'll,
Means to get.
okay, I'll share the flyer with you so that you will get to know what are the scores, how the scores will be.
Yeah. Yeah, yes.
I'll
Okay.
share
Think,
the
Okay.
flyer.
Vandana ma'am, I
Yes.
think Sir described very clearly in the beginning. Maybe you joined a little late. You could
Yes.
check
Yes.
with him. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Amin, sir.
Priya ma'am, thank you so much for a very
Yeah, thank you
helpful
very
topic,
much. Yeah, thank you
and
very
it
much.
is very understandable. Very thank you for.
Thank you
But
so
I
much.
have one question,
Yes, sir.
ma'am. If I don't have actually this plagiarism check software are very costly,
Yeah.
and if in my company or my college there is no
Yeah.
any plagiarism check software, then is there any other way to how to check?
You'll have to find out where such softwares, which is there any company or anywhere such softwares are available, and then use it.
Oh, okay, okay.
Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much,
Thank
Principal
you, ma'am.
Ma'am and Vice Principal and Management of Patkar College to again invite me. And I'm really enjoyed the session. Hope the students benefited by this session. Thank you one and all. Thank you, sir.
One query.
Yes.
Yeah, ma'am, while doing the plagiarism check in Turnitin software, what happens? Almost everywhere get like they are coming under the plagiarism thing. Like if I'm doing it for my study material textbooks, okay, the words
Yeah.
like amalgamation, they find it somewhere in ICAI and they said that has been taken from this. So, ma'am,
Okay.
each and every word is coming under plagiarism. What is the setting that we can do to avoid such plagiarism things? Means such things coming in plagiarism.
Yeah, setting that you can do will be probably to avoid, of course, bibliography, to avoid, you also have a setting to avoid images,
Avoid.
text that
Okay.
you use. I think, I don't know the current alternative, you can maybe set avoid abbreviations.
Okay. Because we have option to avoid in quotes while using this
Yeah.
Turnitin
Avoid
software. We can
quotes. Quotes automatically
avoid
is
quotes.
avoided.
Yeah,
Quotes are avoided.
and but we means what we find that if we are doing it for some accountancy textbook, I was preparing
Yeah.
one of the books.
Yeah.
So in this, there were some things which are actually given by the law,
Yes.
and such things also gets caught in plagiarism. We
Correct.
cannot manipulate the law or change the law.
Yes, correct. You can maybe put that under quotes.
Okay, that can be done.
That
Okay,
can be
ma'am.
done. And like I told you before also, as far as possible, try to avoid using the same term again and again and again and again.
No,
That is,
because very common topics like if
I
I'm
understood,
doing
sir.
on
I
technical analysis.
understood. I
Yeah.
understood what you're saying. Like that's what I gave an example of that HPLC. The following
Yeah.
results are after HPLC this thing. So you need again don't mention that after HPLC this was the output. Based on HPLC, this is the result. No, like that. Don't, as far as possible, avoid using the same phrase or term again and again.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you.
Then that will reduce. Yes. Okay, sir. If there are no more, Archana, I think she has raised her hand.
Yes, yes. Archana madam, please unmute.
Good afternoon, everyone. Myself Archana Gandharkar from C.K. Thakur College. Ma'am, first of all, I would like to thank you. You are given very nice and informative session for us. And thank you, Patkar College. My question is that nowadays people are not following the publication ethics.
Okay.
Okay. Means in that, I have seen this in some cases. Number of co-authors are along with the main authors, and they are only directly putting the money in that, and there is no any restriction, or it is become as like it's a one kind of the business. So how to avoid this thing? How to we will get the genuine type of the research over this research publication?
That is why we need to know be aware of what are the norms of the ethics, and especially those paid journals. If you see, you have what are called as high impact journals. That's why we have to select the UGC care list 1 or 2 journal that is under Scopus Web of Science. Many of those journals, they have a very strict norms for their manuscript submission, and they do the process in which they screen the manuscripts is really stringent. So in which case such practices, if it is a good journal or a good manuscript submitted to a very high repute journal, which of high impact, they screen for such malpractice or such misconducts themselves, and the manuscript will be rejected. So the best way is to do research of high quality, and publish or perish should not be your aim. Good publication. Even if you give one publication, it should be of high quality. So many publications, when compared to many publications, one publication of good or high quality should be your aim. So if you follow some of these, but just giving money and publishing is not. Some journals say that 24 hours will give you the go ahead for acceptance of the manuscript. It is impossible. If a publisher has to follow the norms of ethical public publishing, because the publishers will also have to follow ethical. There are many guidelines. So if they have to follow 24 hours and 1 week is impossible. Okay, so when you have to follow the peer review process and checking for the software and so on, it takes at least minimum 2 to 3 months for a good public, sometimes even 6 months for a good publication to come out. So if it is up to the researcher, you choose a good publisher to publish your work, then automatically you will avoid such scientific mistakes.
Thank you, ma'am.
Any others, if anyone have a query? And Archana madam, I think this is the reason we need to take such programs wherein we are talking on ethics.
Yeah.
Even educated people are doing
Yes.
these jobs, and sensitization and making awareness that we need to be ethical. This is the sad part, that we are teaching ethical part to those who are pursuing research. They are already educated. So this is something we are working on.
Yes, sir, I'm totally agreed with you. But when I have seen some people for only purpose of cash, they are doing such a things. Those who are
But
the senior, they
but if you are looking purpose of caste, the public it is has its own norms. It could be UGC
Yes,
care list
yes.
1 or Scopus or Web of Science. Otherwise, you can't use for caste.
So
Okay.
I think it is we who
Yeah,
ethics is
see,
something is personal.
you will
Whether to
have to
follow
know,
that, yes. So
be aware and follow.
we should be following the guidelines and be ethical all the time. That is how we will grow.
For the purpose of caste, any publication is not accepted. It has to be in UGC care list.
Yes,
Currently,
yes.
it has
Has
to
to
be in
be.
UGC care. It has to be.
Or Scopus or Web of Science is
Or
some.
Web of
Yes,
Science. And you have to attach the proof and all that for it. So
yes.
if you're going in, if you're ready, willing, that's why I said one publication of good quality research in a high repute journal is far better than 10 publication in a low grade.
Yes, yes.
So you take your time to do research, you take your time to write your research in a good way, write your manuscript in a good way, check it out, and then send it for publication. It takes its own time for publishing. It takes time, but then the quality is assured.
Yes. So very true, madam. So
Thank
yes,
you,
now
sir.
part.
Thank you very
Yes.
much.
Just a
Thank you,
minute,
ma'am.
madam. May let me first thank you officially. All the participants. Okay, let me take the opportunity to thank you, Dr. Priya Sundarajan, madam. The topic that madam covered was a very important topic, and this is how we are going to. In fact, now we are struggling when we search a research paper whether this research is authentic or something that has been not authentic. That becomes difficult for us. So we are working in this area, and madam had already given us how are we going to follow the path which will make us a good researcher and will help us to recognize ourselves in the area of research. So, madam, your talk was very informative, and our participants will definitely be benefited out of it.
Thank you, sir.
And benefited out of it. And we again request you to be with us all the time and help us in this area.
Yes,
And
sir.
we expect your help and contribution every time when Patkar College asks you
Yes,
for.
sir. Yes. Yes, sir.
So
Thank
thank
you.
you so much.
Very kind of you. Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much, madam. Thank you for sparing so much of time
Thank you,
with
sir.
us. Thank you all the participants, and we'll share the next scheduled program by 5 p.m. today. Okay, so participants, please be in contact with us on on WhatsApp group, or you can message me in person. Okay,
Thank
thank
you.
you so much.
Thank you, sir. I'll take your leave,
Thank
sir.
you. Thank you.
Please, ma'am, please. Okay, so we are taking a leave. Thank you so much.
Thank you,
All
sir.
Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you, sir.
take care all. Take care all.